Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I'm sitting in a meeting with people. There's 4 people here that presented workshops earlier today. We're going to get a little bit of information from them. And Superintendent Ben Hazard has just joined us. His microphone I see is off, but I suspect he'll be able to join us shortly. Can we just start with a little bit of a roundtable? Hey, I'm so-and-so, and this is where I am. And I'll show you what it looks like. I'm Rod Lucier. I'm in my cool basement where it's nice and quiet here in Kamoka, Ontario. Where are you and who are you?
Hi, I'm Teresa Lopatron. I am in my backyard in Sarnia, Ontario.
I'm Teen Nago, and I am located in Mount Bridges right now. I'm sitting in my backyard, which has a big concrete pad that's on its way, but not quite there yet. So we got a big project happening out back there, and just sitting in the gazebo.
I'm Steph. I'm in Chatham. I'm sitting out on my front porch with the dog that I'm dog sitting for the night because it's quieter out here.
Hi, I'm Alicia. I'm in Corunna, and I am sitting outside while I'm possibly burning my dinner. I don't have great barbecue skills.
Hey, I'm Ben. I'm in Sombra, and I am in my home right near the St. Clair River. You can see it just behind me here.
Okay, is that me then?
That's you, Kate.
That's Kate. You.
I'm Kate, and I'm at the Cambridge en route. Stop en route to camping. So I'm in my truck right now.
Outstanding. Is there anybody else? Who else is here? I see Mary Lynn. Have you got a microphone and camera set up?
I do. Can you hear me?
Yeah, there you are.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm at home.
Where's home?
For the first time this week, which feels good.
Where's home, Mary Lynn?
I live outside of Chatham and also outside of Canfor. So kind of out in the country a little bit, but my husband and the very noisy big dog are hiding so that they're nice and quiet for me right now.
Well, it's clear there's a lot going on. I personally, I'd rather be in a couple of the places you are, whether it's sitting by the river there at Sombra, or where there's a barbecue, or where there's a nice looking pool in the shade. But I'm happy to be here just because you're here. So thanks for sharing all that with us. I'd mentioned that one of the things we're going to look at this afternoon is assessing sort of the experience, both for participants and for presenters. But maybe we can start by hearing from, look at that puppy dog. Maybe we could start by hearing from the folks that were on today about just an overall nugget of what you thought your experience was like. Maybe we could just go a little bit of a round table. What was a high, low, a surprising thing that happened? What was your overall perspective of what happened? And maybe we can start with Teen.
Sure. I think overall it was a very successful morning. We kind of went in with the intent to make our session as kind of practical and interactive as possible. And we weren't sure how that was going to turn out. We were really pleased to see the level of engagement, and just as we're thinking about feedback, and we're thinking about one of the things that I thought about today was that one of the forms of feedback that we received today was just simply the engagement that we've seen this week through the level of participation, given that, it's this time of year, there's lots going on, as we just see even in our video session here right now, there's lots going on in people's lives, and the care and commitment that teachers are taking out of their own time to come and be a part of the learning, which was really inspiring and really kind of amazing. Actually. Some of the things that we kind of really kind of caused us a little bit of stress initially was just kind of the technical stuff, given that it was the first time that we had used the platform and used the tool. We for the first probably half hour, 40 minutes, we spent a lot of time troubleshooting the sound and making sure that we weren't going to have any issues there. So we were able to work that out. So that made it a lot smoother once we got that figured out. But overall, the platform was very user friendly, and it's being able to see one another on the platform really kind of humanized the experience, and it was positive for me.
Well, why don't we jump over to Kate? Because I know one of the things you folks did in your session was you traded off control of who was showing the screen. And part of the reason you did that is because you had these interactive elements where you were calling on the people in the audience to participate. Kate, what was your perspective on that with the technical aspects of it and with the distance aspect of getting that interactivity going?
Yeah, I thought it was quite seamless. Like, I thought going back and forth, I was just using the iPad, and I thought that was really good. I was confident in Team's abilities, so that was very helpful. And I think because we had that central mic, that kind of helped it, so we didn't have to worry about flipping back and forth and also muting and unmuting. So that was, and then I had a couple devices so that I was looking at the chat on something on my laptop, and then I was actually using the whiteboard option on my iPad, and then I had another iPad open so I could look at my presentation and speaker notes as I went. So, and it actually, it's so quick, like the software is so quick that you can just keep up with it really well.
Yeah, it's pretty responsive. Let's turn over to Steph. Steph, what about, I'm going to unmute your microphone for you. What was your impression about hosting your session this morning?
So I was really impressed with the technology. Like, it is quite easy to use. We did have a little bit of snag with the sound, just we had to find some headphones just so that we could run the second machine. And then the volume, I'm a little bit louder than Teresa, just because we were using the mic on my computer as opposed to, I had a central mic that I conveniently left in Chatham this morning, which would have been a lot more helpful. But I was just really impressed with how easy everything got set up. We were ready to go. We had lots of time. We had time to chat beforehand. Made us feel really, really comfortable getting started. And then people being able to interact with us was awesome because they could bring up things that we either hadn't touched on or hadn't thought about, which was really helpful for us as presenters, for extra things to think about. So I thought the whole process was really smooth. I was really worried leading up to this. I think that software made everything so much easier.
And Teresa, you were in the same meeting. What were your what's your reflection on how that went?
Yeah, I thought it went great. I was happy Steph was there to help navigate. I found the feedback on the headphones a little bit tricky, but once we probably have the right headphones, it wouldn't be such a problem. But it went well, and it was nice to interact and get to the teach, like be able to. Our goal is to support the teachers, so it was nice to have that communication with them. I thought it was great.
Would you feel comfortable having had that experience this morning with someone sitting right next to you and having this experience of being distant from one another? Would you be more comfortable maybe trying that without having to be in the same room?
Now, yeah, I think I'm ready. I could do it. It was, yeah, because I guess the feedback would be coming because our computers were right beside each other. Is that where we went wrong, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's totally fair. A lot of the sessions so far this week, we've had that experience where people have been in the same room, and even Teen and Kate and their guest that was with them, all around the same table. It sort of makes that conversation seem a lot more natural. But I think the more familiar you have with seeing people on the screen and interacting with them, the fact that it's such a responsive platform, I think would allow some regular conversation. So thanks for sharing that. One of the things, Ben, we talked about was to try to get feedback a little bit more in depth from a variety of players in the whole system. What would you suggest as a way of going forward with regard to that? And I'm kind of offended at the beautiful scenery behind your head that I'm seeing, but where do you think we go with the assessment piece from this point?
Is that open, Rod?
There, he's just froze out and left. So I'm going to pass that question. Mary Lynn, have you had a chance to talk to Ben about that?
Can you
Just sort of repeat the last part of that, Rod.
About the idea about getting feedback from participants and feedback from the folks that were involved from the presentation side.
We actually did talk about it a bit today, and our experience is that people don't usually want to respond. Ben and I ran several Skype sessions last year with all of our principals, and truthfully, that should be a fairly comfortable platform for everybody. They know us well. We both have been principals with them, not in the very far distance, and they all know each other. And our experience is that they do not speak to us at all. They do. It's like total presentation. I think in order to get people to participate, we're gonna have to do more of what Teen and Kate did today, where you made it interactive and then they wanted to respond to the questions. So I think verbally people are not necessarily going to be comfortable enough to just jump in. Maybe out with time, but I think the chat is safer. It just feels safer for everybody. I don't know. What do you think, Ben? Are you frozen again, or are you?
I should be unfrozen. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah, but that scenery it's unfair. Go ahead.
Come on out, Rob. So I think the question was about interaction. Was that the question? I got frozen there.
Interaction and some feedback that we might be able to get from participants.
Yeah, so I think it's interesting because I think we're all on a journey of understanding what this looks like. I think that we've unlocked different pieces and understanding different little ways that we can relate better with an audience. Rod's first day, he said, smile as we speak. It engages. That's a great tip. We've also learned to have a slide deck and be comfortable in the platform. So that's improving over time. And I heard that really clearly from Teresa and Steph today. But then the other part is the idea of bringing a teacher along, the way we interact with others and how we can capture that. And I think, Teen and Kate, said, all right, let's try some different interactive elements, how that might look. So I think that the more that we do those things and then understand those as presenters, the more interaction is going to happen. At one point, I got to give kudos here. Great sessions all around. At one point, I realized that I believe Kate was sharing her iPad, drawing on it with her Apple Pencil as a whiteboard. And I'm like, you're just taking this thing up a notch here. It's a mashup of a really interesting proportion, So I think it's interesting I saw that, I'm like, now that would be really interesting to use. So I think as we do these things, we learn different ways to do it and different ways that we can engage interaction. I think that's the learning that we've had. I do think that our nervousness around these platforms, like Teresa and Steph have talked about that today, nervous when we do these online formats, makes sense. And it's interesting that as people who present and work with adults, we feel nervous going to the online format. So our participants probably feel the same level of nerve.
Well, one of the things I think has been really affirming is that members of the team have been popping into other sessions. So Alicia's here as an example. I mean, I see her pop into teen session, but she popped into the morning session as well. And what's that like, having gone through it, Alicia, and then to sit and watch a session? Are you watching for the content, or are you watching at another level to watch the interaction and the way the presenters are doing their thing?
So I think it's a little bit of both. I know today Steph and Teresa's session was really quite interesting to me because I did have a particular student that kind of was in the back of my mind during that. So I was in some sessions for sure. I was in it for the content piece, the Indigenous with Gretchen and Pam, Sally's flexible seating. But I will honestly say, as someone who went on this platform as a presenter, I'm super disappointed because I had to jump out from Teen and Kate's session today and have not had a chance to rewatch it. So I missed a lot of those interactive pieces that you were speaking about, but that was kind of what I knew that Teen and Kate would amp it up a little bit because of their comfort level, especially Teen with technology. So I was watching today from more of a presenter's kind of perspective. And I will definitely go back and watch it and chat about that later.
Okay, well, let me throw this question out because we haven't, like a lot of times, I'm sure when you've run professional development sessions with an audience, after the session, you've got a little bit of a feedback form or you've got a link that you ask people to visit. Is there a way to capture the experience of these many people that have attended these sessions?
Well, we do have email addresses for all of the participants, so we can absolutely reach out that way. I think the important thing here is asking the right questions so that we get the right information from people, and crafting questions can be difficult.
What kind of questions would you like to ask?
To get some idea of like feedback on their experiences. I'd like to know what they thought of the platform. I'd like to know how easy they found it to use, whether they had any difficulties with that specifically, but then also how was the flow of the presentation? Was it information that was helpful for you? What's the most useful information you had? But like there's a lot of questions there, and so I guess it really depends on what it is that we want to know from people, and what's the most valuable information for our learning so that we can improve.
Yeah, where to go to next.
Yeah, and that's a key thing, exactly that. What's the purpose of the information you're gathering? Is it to make yourselves better, to make sure that what you're offering to people meets their needs? And that's that whole empathy piece, right? When you're designing something, you want to design it for the needs of your audience. So have you hit the target? In what places have you hit it? Has the technology hit the target? In which ways does it maybe fall short? And how can we do an even better job of helping meet that need? I think that's.
Are you writing these down, Rod?
I've got notes, but guess what, Ben? I've got a recording of this.
Oh, great. Who knew?
So anything I miss, someone's going to have. Does anybody else have any suggestions or thoughts about the types of questions or the form of survey we might take with folks?
It's tricky, right? Because when we're seeking feedback, and what we've found in the past is that our audience typically likes us as people, so their response is complimentary to us. They want to make us feel good about the work that we've done, which isn't always the most helpful thing when we're looking for feedback. So I'm interested in kind of the slow burn that happens from this, and that sharing out of maybe those resources and the practices that you kind of been inspired by today, once you actually deliver them in the classroom, and then provide us some feedback on how that went, because that to me is really the most impactful. That's ultimately what we want, is that our work to be impactful on students.
Mm-hmm.
So finding a way to capture that, I think, would be very valuable.
There is something that I think has happened here, which is it seems like there was a comedian before that was like, that we take technology for granted. Like, I remember the first time I showed my grandmother Skype, and we were Skyping with somebody in Belgium who was one of her family members. And she didn't know it was even possible to do this video call. And about 10 seconds later, she's like, why did it freeze for a second? It was like this expectation of like, what? You showed me this. Now I understand it. Now, why is there a lag? This is ridiculous. So I think that what I did notice, though, really fascinating, is it really matured quickly we started to get some feedback in different channels, some in the comments on different posts, and some in verbal interaction, some in messages, that started to expect us to live up to the high standard of what it could be. So some of that was audio things I heard a little bit about, that we could improve our audio and improve some of our technical capabilities. And more recently, I've heard that, you know what, it was great, and you've gotten better, and the group's gotten better and better with their interactions over the course of the week. Now keep that going. It's like, we didn't know this was possible. Now be as good as the best person there.
That's a great point. Does anybody else want to follow on that? Their thoughts on that, about anything related to feedback?
Is he saying any words?
Well, for me too, it'd be. Oh,
go ahead.
Sorry. Where to next, right? What do our teachers need, and how can we support them? That's for Steph and I know that's so important to see where what's the missing link? What do they need to know?
And that's a question that I've heard from Ben. Like, that's where, you know, if that's what the board wants to look at as a good way of thinking, whether it's students or teachers, whatever you've learned now, what is it that comes next? So as presenters, I think that's kind of along the lines of what Ben is saying, is that the expectations are up a little bit from the people that are in the audience. Like, they've seen what you can do. Now what are you going to do? Like, is there a way everyone can do such high quality work? Can everyone make it interactive? And this is one of, I think Ben was trying to give me like a gentle needle yesterday, because in our debrief session, I was kind of hinting at that we'd start to think about ways to make things interactive as one example. And here today, we had a couple sessions that really drew on the participation of the audience. So that, you know, as that becomes a common way of thinking about the sessions that we offer, and people that are in the audience become comfortable with the idea of participating, then maybe we get to those people in the audience sharing their voice, or becoming co-presenters and panelists on people's talks, because they know they have people that they can sort of dive in with.
Rod, I was just going to share something. I just wonder, like, how many people are just listening to the session and not really paying attention. You know what I mean? It's in the background, they're unloading their dishwasher or whatever. So I think adding that element of participation keeps them engaged and actually learning something, rather than just say, yep, I listened to that, when it's like the rest of us who are listening to podcasts and, you know, they're just in the background and you kind of catch most of what's going on or some of what's going on. And we want to catch all of what's going on if this is going to be our professional development going forward, right?
I think one other thing, moving a little bit away from the professional development piece, I just wonder how this platform can be used in other ways with the people we work with, whether it's sitting down and having a reflection on, you know, like how number talks are going in their classroom, or being able to like troubleshoot with a group of people from the comfort of their own home if they, you know, can't make it to a workshop, or they don't want to just reach out via email. Like, how can we use this platform to really allow people to have that video component and to reach out to us if they want to just have a professional dialogue about something? Because I think there's something to be said in that as well.
I was thinking of it from our students' perspective too. Like, we have students that are the only student in their school. So using this platform to be able to meet, and they can meet other students who share a first language, or they can meet other English language learners from across the board, and having opportunities to share and meet new people. I think that would be a one, just because it's so easy to use and there's so many features that they could take advantage of.
Yeah, this idea about having an interface that you can pass off to anybody can share. So a student, for example, could share their work, holding it up to the screen, or sharing a PowerPoint presentation of their own with an audience of be it a teacher or with other students, right? Yeah, that's all. This is getting to Ben's point where we're starting to think about way beyond the idea of, can we present to an audience of teachers through this platform? You're now going all over the place. And to me, it's exciting. It's challenging. And you have to know, like I mentioned yesterday, when you're getting into a boat to launch and go somewhere, it might be a little bit rocky as you try these different things. You have to expect that it's not always going to go smoothly, right? But that's where the growth happens.
So I do want to throw one thing out, which I think one thing really helpful has been Rod. And not to just, you know, shine too big of a light on you, Rod. I know you well enough that that's not your game. But I will say, like, having somebody to take that cognitive load off of our presenters, so that we can be thinking about content and interactions, that really is helpful. And so I think that the reason why we've been able to kind of vault forward so quickly is because you've taken a lot of our, like, really low level cognitive load that would have probably been a barrier for us, and let us think about these higher level questions. And now, you know, people are like, okay, I'd like to try that. I can do that probably on my own. I might not need Rod all the time to connect ELL students to others. So
Yeah, no, that safety net of kind of knowing that Rod was there and having someone to kind of back us up if things arose was very helpful.
Well, I have to say I've learned a lot too in acting in this role, and being like, I really appreciated the opportunity to be familiar with the faces as they appear on the screen, and even a little bit of the personalities. So when we met in Chatham, and then the second day, I was pulling people out into the hallway to do some little bumper recordings. I was having that interaction with you. So there's a level of familiarity that I have with a number of you that seeing you on screen, it just seemed natural. Like I really feel like there's an affinity I have for the work that you're doing and for the people behind the scenes. So it's been easy for me to help out, but I've also learned a lot with regard to the challenges of the platform, especially with regard to sound. I think the last couple of days we did a much better job of making sure that's right before we go. And earlier in the week, I was just like, let's make sure this thing's running. Let's go. We're on time. Let the audience know we're on time. But now I'm like, no, this product is too good to not have it captured in really good sound and video. So I've learned a little bit about that and about the instructions to give to participants and little things like allowing them to move the screens around so they can see your slides. There's all these little things that I sort of take for granted from my perspective of using these tools. So much as it may have been helpful to you to have me, it was good for me to have people I was familiar with to support that had the confidence in me so that I was able to do a little bit of troubleshooting and learning myself along the way. So I think there's been learning from my perspective, everyone, myself included, there's been levels of learning that have been unexpected. There have been unanticipated benefits from the experience so far. We're right nearly 30 minutes in, so I'm going to just turn it over to anybody who has maybe a last thing that they'd like to share. Anything related to the experience before we sign off. And I mean, we got a barbecue, we got people working out with their dogs, we got people sitting out by the lake, we got all kinds of stuff going on. And I want to let you get back to that. And I'm really, really appreciative of your time, but I don't want to cut off if anybody has any last thing that they'd like to say.
Do you have any water out here?
Second.
I mean, people have pulled over from going on vacation. They're pulled over in truck stops and stuff.
2 seconds is I'm really appreciative of this group of people who's here today, but also those who've been, sharing all week, because people have been giving up their time, giving up, time with family. Sometimes they're grabbing the screen and saying hi and seeing if we're talking, Teresa. And that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I think it's, and I just so thankful for folks who are willing to kind of really dig in a earnest way, and and also for all of our participants. Like it's been tremendous that this many folks have come out and engaged with us and continue to engage with us. So, I think it's a gratefulness that after the course of the first 4 days, I'm sure tomorrow will be excellent as well.
I want water on there.
Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you.
Outstanding. I've got a boat
Thanks,
going
Rod.
by. We got hugs. We got puppies. You guys go have a great afternoon. You've really made my week so far. I look forward to the final day tomorrow.
This kind of water.
Take care.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow.
Good night, all.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Good night.